Hi, I'm Emma Byrne, and this is my research project, Toys, Teaching, and Talking, Eliciting Speech from Emergent Bilingual Preschoolers. A little bit about the classroom that I was in. It was a half-day pre-K classroom, so I had a morning class and an afternoon class. Each class was a mix of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I had 20 students in the morning and 20 students in the afternoon. I also had 2 students who spoke Russian with Emergent English, as well as a few other students who spoke another language but were proficient and spoke English at school. While I was there, I wondered, how could I use toys to better communicate with my EB or Emergent Bilingual students and age in their English language learning. My research question was, how can I use toys to help elicit speech from Emergent Bilingual preschool students? As part of my research, I formed a contextual framework composed of 3 articles, 2 of which were from the Journal of Early Childhood Literacy, and the third being from Early Childhood Research Quarterly. The first article, An Emergent Bilingual Child's Multimodal Choices in Sociodramatic Play. The authors Ngocha, Simbate, and Gort, I hope I pronounced those correctly, conducted a case study, and as part of their write-up for the case study, they talked about how beyond supporting language socialization, play also helps to promote key aspects of children's language and literacy learning, such as their oral language development, metalinguistic awareness, and powers of imagination. In the course of carrying out their imagined play situations, children can experiment with reading, writing, and oral language to develop deeper understandings, as well as they explore and use a variety of communicative devices such as prompting, storytelling, and underscoring in the process of acting out imagined or real life events during play. You'll see this to be a really important part of what I discovered in my research. The second article, Writing Their Way into Talk, Emergent Bilinguals, Emergent Literacy Practices as Pathways to Peer Interaction and Oral Language Growth. In Bernstein's conclusion, she states that from her paper that literacy can support play, interaction, and talk. Bernstein was also in a preschool classroom where a large portion of the students were just learning to speak English, which obviously was different from, I had the opposite. But she saw that those students who did not, were just learning to speak English, didn't often participate in interactions with English speaking students, and that literacy facilitated social interaction across language backgrounds. This is something that I also ended up seeing in my study, but instead of it being literacy, mine was toys. The final article, a peer mediated approach to smart emergent bilingual preschoolers, gave me a really good background into the oral language development of emergent bilinguals. My data collection and analysis. So my data collection mainly consisted of daily reflections that I would do for myself as an aspiring educator and student teacher to help myself reflect on my day and, see what I still needed to work on and what I could do better to best serve all of my students. I also conducted observations. I tried to do 3 over the course of each week, 9 in total. These were just at various points throughout our day when I could kind of take a step back from being the teacher and watch my students, and made a point of trying to observe mainly my afternoon Russian student. And I collected these from April 3rd to April 21st. For my analysis, I sorted my findings by the type, mainly by the type of toy. So whether it be a fidget toy, a building toy, something from the outdoor playground, or a stuffed animal, as well as looked at the type of response. Did my student talk in Russian, or were they attempting to speak in English? The codes I used, or things that I looked for within my data, were student to student talk, student teacher talk, student uses toy to talk to others, toy initiated conversation, and toy initiated interaction. My findings. So, my first finding was with building toys and overall speech. Most of the English I was able to elicit from my student came when he was playing with the building toys. So, magnetic shapes or magnetiles or these magnetic colored cubes. He loved showing me what he built, and it elicited the richest responses out of my student overall. Part of that is because he had such an interest in these. And during the time I was with him, he was actually able to tell me the colors of the magnetic shapes in English on his own. This is some of the data that I collected that supported this finding. I noted what part of the day the interaction took place, what the toy was, who the interaction was with, and what happened, whether it be he told me the colors of the shapes in English with minimal prompting, or he didn't need any prompting and he was able to tell and show me an ABA pattern. So like red, blue, red, or yellow, green, yellow. And as you can see, a lot of times it was with myself because I formed a good relationship with this student. He also would interact with others from time to time, such as one of the 2 other paraprofessionals in the classroom. My second finding I affectionately called bridging the gap. So I noticed that the toys brought interactions between my afternoon Russian student, who I will call G, and the other students in the class. There were times where G would speak in Russian and the other student would respond back to him in English, even though they didn't know Russian. And it almost seemed as if they were in their own way having a conversation, able to understand each other. Most, if not all, the conversations are revolved around the toys that they were playing with, mainly because these students are at such a young age. This is some of the data that I had to support this. So, for instance, we were outside one day and he was sitting on top of this log tunnel structure that a lot of the students love to climb onto. And he leaned over the edge and he was talking to the girls in some other students in Russian, and the girls would respond to him in English, and they had a nice little game going on, even though they didn't speak the same language. Another time was during our first circle time of the day. He ran over to our calm down box that has a couple fidget toys in it to grab a poppet for another student, and the two of them then played with the poppets together. The implications. So the conclusions I drew from my study was using toys with young emergent bilinguals can help to elicit language in both English and the students' L1 or their first language. Toys can also be used to help assess a young emergent bilingual's knowledge and understanding, just as when he was able to tell me the name of the colors in English, that let me know, okay, he does know these colors and he is able to tell me them in English and not just in his first language or Russian. I also came to the conclusion that toys can also help to encourage interactions and conversations between emergent bilinguals and other classmates, even when they don't speak the same language. The implications of my study, or what I will make sure to do going forward as an educator, is including more toys and manipulatives in my assessments, not just to help support my emergent bilingual students, but all my students, as well as making sure to allow time for independent play in the classroom. Because a lot of times students learn better from each other than they do an adult. I also make sure to plan activities that require creating and building, because sometimes you just don't have the words to express or show what you know, but you're able to create a visual representation, whether you're an emergent bilingual or not. And that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.